just create a new chat mode. So to go to your modes, configure modes, create a new custom chat mode. This puts it in the project. This makes it global. You can call it literally whatever you want, right? So like if you want a chat mode that's a designer, right? Make a designer chat mode.
Hello, everyone. We are back at Open at Microsoft with a special guest. Hey, Burke Holland, how are you?
Hi. How are you,
Hello.
George? Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody. Hi, Open at Microsoft. Nice to see you all.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here on this great time to talk about VS Code extension being open source and so many other, good things coming. I know about this new piece mode that you work on and looks very nice and now integrated with VS Code agent mode. Let's dig in and explain for people what's going on with VS Code. If you don't know, the extension now is open source. That's correct, but tell me about that.
Yeah, that's
Welcome.
exactly right. So we announced at Build this year in May that we were going to open source the GitHub Copilot extension. And that's a little confusing because it sounds like we're going to open source an extension. And for those who don't know, in Visual Studio Code, GitHub Copilot is an extension. So it's you install it and then you get the chat in your editor and a bunch of other AI features. And the announcement that we made was that we were going to open source that extension, but it's a little bit confusing because what we're actually doing is we're taking the features from that extension and we're pulling them into what we call VS Code Core, which is open source itself. It has always been, but the extension has not been. It's been a closed source project, and now we're in the process of pulling it into the core. But we're in this sort of middle ground where we actually do have an open source extension that you can work with and you can submit PRs to today. And that extension is actually what's in the product today. So the first step is to make the extension open source, and then ultimately is to take all of that stuff from the extension and just make it part of the core of Visual Studio Code. So I thought today what we could do is, if you want to, George, we could just jump into Visual Studio Code and I can show you what that extension actually looks like today and how people can go and play with it. And then I can then show you a PR that I did, because I know you were talking about beast mode, which is kind of a thing, has become a thing. We can talk about what that is and how we PR'd that into this extension.
That sounds great. And now that people can see the code, they're going to ask for features and they can maybe jump in and help us as well. I think that's the great, of being open source, is that they can see how it's done and they can propose something and collaborate with us as a community. I like that.
Right. That would be awesome. So here, this extension is called VS Code Copilot Chat. So let's jump to the browser real quick. This is the repository. It's public. And this is where the extension currently lives. So if you come to pull requests here, you can see all the pull requests, and you can see maybe. Where's the IntelliSense? I can't search. Oh, wait, this is a PRs. Issues is me. Where's my stuff? My pull requests. So I have one here. Right. This is the beast mode. So this is the extension. If people want to PR against it, you can. It's right here. And we would love to see your PRs if you have, PRs, ideas about how to make the product better.
Yeah, I think look the issues, and if there's any issue open, or we can even open issues as well, and asking for this feedback, and connect with the
Correct.
team as
Right.
well. Connect with Burke and with the team, with us, and
Right. So what's interesting here is that issues are currently tracked somewhere else. So we're in the middle. We're sort of in between places where we have issues, and the issues are actually tracked here. So remember I said we were going to pull this stuff into core. So this is actually VS Code. Like if you were to clone this repo, you would get Visual Studio Code running locally. And if you wanted to file an issue against Copilot, we recommend that you do that here, right? So if we look at my issues here, you'll see there's some, right? So here's one where I'm suggesting that we just get rid of the keep button in GitHub Copilot. Just get rid of it altogether. Just get rid of it, right? And that's the kind of thing that you can do here. And then we have discussions on that. But the code itself is, some of it is already in VS Code, but a lot of it is here in this repo, right? So here is where you look at issues on VS Code, and here is where you actually submit pull requests. I know it's confusing. Bear with us, everyone, while we're in between places. Eventually, we will just be here on Visual Studio Code, and you won't have to go here anymore. But that's the setup that we have today.
So the first thing I say, leave a star if you're using Copilot. Make sure that you are, following those repositories and leave a star for the project as well. And if you, not using Copilot at the moment, I recommend you to come back, Burke, and give a go again. I think there's so many improvements, and one of them was, something that you started. And tell about your experience helping the project. You create something new that's now part of the core extension, and how I see your experience that be similar to someone willing to help as well.
Yeah. So what's really interesting about AI is that we're in this really weird place as developers where you can program without actually programming. And so what I mean by I kind of have to show you what I mean by that. So if you think about AIs, really the prompts that you give them, that's how you program the AI. Essentially, that's what you're doing. You're asking it to produce some output. And traditionally with systems, as developers, we program, that's input, and then the computer gives us output. And now you can think of AI as almost the computer. The prompt is the input, and then what it gives you is the output. And so it's not a one-to-one, but generally speaking, you can think of it that way. And what this means is that you can actually do quite a lot with these AIs just via prompting. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to pull up my browser here, and I'm going to come over here. So there's this API that I like to use for, there's a lamp behind me. It's blue. And it has an HTTP API that you can use to control it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come and I just imagine for a second, George, that we want to create an application. Maybe it's a mobile app or it's a web app or something to control this light. Well, one of the first things that we would need to do is we would need to know about the API for the light. And if we were going to use Copilot to do this, we might do it like this. So I'm going to come back to Visual Studio Code here, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm in the chat extension, but that's irrelevant for what we're about to do. So here in our model picker, you can see we've got these different models, and we have some additional ones now. We have 5 mini, and as of today, Grok Code Fast 1. And then we have these models here, Claude Sonnet 4 and GPT-5. There's others. I've turned some of them off here. So like there's Gemini and a few others, but they're not showing up for me because I've turned them off because I don't use them. So the issue that we had is that these are premium requests, like Sonnet and GPT-5. They're also quite popular models. So if you actually click on the little frog down here, I don't know what to call it. You can see, right? And so if you're a Copilot user, you'll know you're limited, right? If you're a pro user, I think you get 300 premium requests. And so if you want to do something with Claude, that's going to use up a premium request. But if you use 4.1, which is my favorite model, by the way, it's included. Yeah. In other words, you won't run out of requests.
And it's very fast as well. It's very fast model.
And it's extremely fast. Yes. Yeah. But the problem was this. So like, let's say, in fact, let's open a new window here because I don't want to mess up this code. Let's just give me a second here. Let's do a let's connect to WSL here. I'm just connecting to Ubuntu. I am on a Windows machine, but I like Linux quite a bit, and so I do all of my programming in a Linux environment here via Ubuntu. And then let's
Same
go to
for
our
me.
terminal
Same for me.
here.
WSL is my thing as well.
Yeah, it works extremely well, right? Like to
Yeah,
me, I
yeah.
can't really tell that I'm not actually in Linux. So let's
I mean,
do a new I don't know what, let's just call this beast mode test. Right? And then there we go. And then all I'm doing here, folks, is creating a new directory and then opening the editor so that the directory is the one that's open. You can see it's here. It's empty. There's nothing in it. So let's go back to our original scenario. Let's say that we wanted to, if I was going to tackle this with AI and I wanted to build this out, what I would do is I would do this in steps. And the first thing I would do is I would go out and make a summary of the API that I wanted to code against. And if inside of Visual Studio Code, we could do something like that, right? So we could say, go to the LIFX HTTP API here, right? And then we could say, and create a markdown table of all API endpoints, their params, path to call them, etc. Place in a file called api.md. All right, so I'm just going to send this with the agent as it is. And let's see what happens here. So this is GPT 4.1, 4.1. So you can see it goes out and it fetches and I think I may need to, yeah. So actually it's, one second, it's using the beast mode prompt in the backend because I forgot it's actually been PR'd into the product. So let me turn that off for just a second. I need to take this out. Bear with me. So because you need to be able to see the difference here. So let's go back. Let's run that back here. Fortunately, we can just bring that right back. It's super easy. And then we will send it here in a second when Copilot comes back online. We'll send it with 4.1. And let's see if we can I'm trying to get 4.1 to misbehave so we can see the difference. Yeah. So, and it looks like, let's see. Looks like it may not misbehave. Let's see here. There's the alternate GPT-5 prompt. It's actually doing quite well. So we've made updates to the system here to improve 4.1. But what it used to do was 4.1 would basically come through here and it might fetch one of these things or none of them. And then it would usually just come back and tell you, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and create this markdown document, but then it actually wouldn't do it, right? So you can see it actually does a pretty good job here. And it's fetched each one of these pages. It's done this recursively, which is quite smart. The agent has to figure this out. And then you can see the different like selectors and things like that in the table. What beast mode does is it's a prompt mode. And so if we come here, right here, you can see I've got a bunch of them. So like, I've got one for, this is a grok mode. This is Horizon. There was a Horizon models. I don't know if people remember for a while. Do you remember this, George? Like the Horizon models popped up for a couple of days on Open Router. They were completely free. Nobody knew where they came from. And so I was working on that for a while.
That one.
So once I set this, then that's the mode. So if we run this back, let's run it again. And this time we're in a different mode. And then we'll look at the difference and we'll talk about the actual prompt itself. So you can see the first thing it is doing is it's communicating a lot better than the previous model, right? It's telling you what it's doing. And it's sort of walking you through here. So it tells you, look, like I fetched this. Next, I need to do this. My tools are I've got auto approve on, which if you're watching this, that's a setting. So if we go to settings UI, auto approve here, and this just allows the chat to execute commands.
Execute commands.
Right. So otherwise it's going to ask you, is it okay if I fetch this? Is it okay if I do, every time it calls a tool, it'll ask you if it's okay. So it says it's created a file here, and it's very similar to the one that was created before, just like this, right? Although it's got some most endpoints require authentication and a bearer token. So it's done a bit of a better job here than the previous one. But the way that this mode works is, if we take a look at it here, and then we could start to implement this, right? We could say, like implement a JavaScript app to control this API. I don't actually know what this will do, right? I wouldn't recommend that you prompt this way. You should be more deliberate and specific with your prompts. But the idea is that 4.1 should like plan all this out and actually be able to do this for you without you doing a lot of thinking. So you can see it's creating a to-do list here. And then it's going to start working through these items in the to-do list. And all of this is powered by, I do have a folder open, don't I? It is, folder is open. All of this is powered by this chat mode. So if we look at it here, it's actually quite comprehensive. So you can see it's just like going to go to town. I'm just going to let it go to town.
Yeah, that's one thing here that not many people don't know. Then you can create these custom modes, and the beast mode was nothing. There's this group of instructions that was created, and you can customize if you want as well. But the behavior could be a little bit different if you do that, and you have to try yourself. I think that's
correct, right? So you can actually see what I went through with 4.1 here to try to get it to behave, right? So this is kind of the standard, like you're an agent, please keep going. But then here I'm telling it, this is how I want you to communicate with people. Use light humor, never tell the user that they're right? Because it's super annoying when the AI is always like, you're absolutely right, you're so smart, right? If the user said something that isn't right, correct them, stand your ground, don't gaslight them. Right? And this includes saying things like, great idea, you're absolutely right. Again, we're literally programming the model here to behave a certain way. We're telling it it's okay to think a lot. That's fine. You don't have to worry about that. And you'll see me do this over and over. Just keep going, right? You have everything you need. Please just keep going. Only terminate it when the problem, it's basically the same thing over and over and over again. And then here I'm telling it that it needs to use Google search, and I want it to aggressively use Google search, right? So if I said something like, create a UI for this using HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, my guess is it's going to go out to the web and try to do some research on what it needs to do that. We'll see if it actually does that. Here's this, always tell the user what you're going to do. Take your time. A lot of this is repetitive. You're like, didn't you already say that? Yeah, I did. But it's because it needs you to repeat things. Planning. And then down here, there's this very specific, this workflow that I wanted to use, where I wanted to use the fetch tool. I wanted to use sequential thinking. I wanted to implement the fix incrementally, debug, test, iterate, reflect, and validate. And then for each one of these, I've broken down exactly what to do in that case. If I give you a URL, use this tool. After fetching, review the content. If you find any additional URLs that are relevant, then you need to recursively gather all information until you have everything that you need.
That's something, Burke, that I can see people helping. If they get the beast mode here, those instructions, and they do small customizations and try themselves, they maybe get a better, results that we are getting and that everyone's getting. And they can say, oh, look, I made that small change and my workflow now is working better for me. And we try to understand exactly why that change helped and see how we can improve the standard one at least.
Exactly. And a lot of people have very specific ways that they like to work. So this workflow works like I do as a developer. The first thing I usually do is like Google it or read the docs. So I want the AI to do the same thing. But not
Yeah.
everybody works the same way, and you don't always use the same workflow with every problem. So you can take a lot of control over the AI with these prompts. You're programming it. Like for instance, I've given it a memory, right?
Memory.
So I can say something like, remember that I do not like arrow functions. Okay. That's not true, by the way, but I'm
Yeah.
basically giving it a stylistic thing here. And if you've used ChatGPT before, then you know what this is. You recognize this. So this will actually write to a memory file, and then that memory file just gets added every single time to the prompt. User does not like arrow functions, preferred traditional function expressions or declarations. And as you go along, as you work, I tell it to remember things, right? Like, I don't know, I don't like gradients. I don't use gradients in design. Remember that, and it just keeps adding it to the memory, and the memory is always appended to the chat. So again, you're programming the AI like as you go along here as a user, just with natural language. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, maybe in the future you're going to have all that customizations kind of done automatically. But at the moment, you have to spend as a developer some time to work on those instructions to customize for your environment if you have to.
Oh yeah,
Otherwise,
100%.
the models are not going to behave the way that you expect if you don't do that. And what I like on that work that you did on this mode was you got the OpenAI guidelines for 4.1. They're telling us how to use the model, how to talk with that specific model, and you create that, and you in- start creating this mode, and people start testing and start getting results, and you're refining that version 3.1 already. So the same thing can happen, I think, with anyone watching this. Give a go on Copilot. The extension now is open source. There is also Copilot, also that you can see prompts instructions there. We're going to leave the description here on the video description. And what more? Like, what's the next step? They want to get started, but what you recommend for
Yeah.
them to pick something or
So for for chat modes, because they're so powerful and they work differently with every model, just create a new chat mode. So to go to your modes, configure modes, create a new custom chat mode. This puts it in the project. This makes it global. You can call it literally whatever you want, right? So like if you want a chat mode that's a designer, right? Make a designer chat mode. Teach it about best practices for design and colors you like and everything, and then use that and tell it, so that's one thing you can do right now. This is super simple. Anybody can do this. It just takes time. And prompting is like everything else. It's just it's something you do with practice. If you want to actually submit to the we talked about, for VS Code, you can do issues here, right? So if you have an issue that you'd like to submit here on VS Code, this is a great place to do that. And if you have a PR that you want to make, you can do that here on Copilot Chat, right? For a feature. We do ask that you open an issue first and sort of like get consensus that this is something that we want to do. Otherwise, you may put a lot of work into a PR that that doesn't get merged because it doesn't line up with what the project wants. So for instance, my PR here, we discussed this for weeks before it actually got submitted as a PR, just to make sure that it was
yeah.
actually what we wanted to do.
Yeah, the best
And
approach is always open an issue on VS Code and then discuss that issue and see if you can help. Put your hands up if you find some issue that you can help.
right, exactly. And if you want to see like how we prompt these AIs, this is a great repo for doing that. So if you
Yep.
come to this repo here and you look for the agent instructions file, it's this one here. You can go in and see exactly what we do.
Yeah.
You can see the prompts that we're passing here. All of this is open. You can even see here that like we're checking, is it GPT-5? Okay, well then we need to give it a conversational style. Claude doesn't require this. This is also a great place to go. Like if you're just interested in prompting and you want to see how we do it, there's so many hours in these prompts.
That's
I would
great.
highly
Yeah.
recommend that you go check this out. Yeah.
That's a great start for them to, to customize the one that they're using. Look in the beast mode as well, instructions and play with that. I think that's a nice thing that open sourcing, the extension kind of open up that discussions and the customization of modes as well. And it's great. We could be here forever, but that was what we want to, hear next. We can bring book another time to do another episode and go a little bit deeper on that. Oh,
Yeah,
that
that'd be
sounds good.
great. Well, thanks for having me, George, and appreciate being here with you, open source folks. And
Yeah,
let's do it
pleasure.
again.
And
Prompting is fun.
it is fun. And if you're not following, if you don't know anything about VSCode, follow Burke Holland. There's a lot of content that, James Montmagno, all the team that's building and releasing content. And we're going to bring more here to Open at Microsoft. And follow the show, subscribe it to the Microsoft Developer Channel. And see you all next time. Thanks so much.